stories do sell, right? So like, I think if you're, obviously this is many health coaches listening to this is it is good to accumulate these stories, and it doesn't have to be necessarily you. This is obviously could be clients. And so creating and like keeping tabs on all the people that you've helped throughout the years, I think is an important thing to do. Sometimes it can get lost, but I think a lot of successful coaches are successful because they really make light of all these accomplishments that they've helped people with. And I think because other people see that and they want that same thing. And so I think that's like a really important step to starting your own business is first start building these stories around your business. And I think you'll attract a lot of people.
Welcome to another episode of the Health Coach Academy podcast. I'm your host, Omar Cumberbatch of OmarCumberbatch.com. Really excited to share today's guest with you. His name is Gryn. He's a wellness coach who's also an intermittent fasting expert. He's an author and he's the host of the Get Lean, Eat Clean podcast, which has over 100,000 downloads. So he's really doing well out there. And he's going to talk a lot about how he's put together his business model as a wellness coach and some of the things that we could really start discussing and implementing into our health coaching business. So I'm really excited to share Gryn with you guys. As always, please leave a rating and review so I can continuously get great guests like Gryn. And I'm also, as you know, going to be dropping that course. It's out any day now, so just keep an eye out for it. Any interest in it before it comes out, it's going to be available just on my website. So you can go to omarcumberbatch.com, and if you have any questions about it, hit me at omar@omarcumberbatch.com. So let's jump into the show. Hey, Gryn, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Great, Omar. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. Excited. I love the topic about intermittent fasting. And I know that you have a wealth of business knowledge, which I'm really excited about as well. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey and how you stumbled upon intermittent fasting?
Yeah, I mean, my journey into becoming a health coach really stemmed from, my personal interest in just health and wellness. And, I think I tried the corporate route back when I graduated college a long time ago, 20 years ago, whatever. But I knew that sitting in an office wasn't for me. So tried that for about 5-6 years and tried the corporate route in Chicago, and then decided to get more into helping people with their health, and something that I was just always interested in. So started training individuals actually out of a small studio about 30 minutes north of the city, and really enjoyed that. And then we started to realize that, obviously nutrition was a big part of getting people their results. So wanted to learn a little bit more about, nutrition, and started getting educated from that. And, led me down fasting and a lot of different routes that, are just tools that I use to help my clients, get results. And so, yeah, it's, being an entrepreneur and having your own business has its pros, and, it has bumps in the roads as well, but it's been a great learning experience. So.
Yeah, no. So obviously you lived the lifestyle, you saw the results that you were getting for yourself and your clients. When was it apparent that you wanted to make a complete business out of it? So I see that you have a whole bunch of different things that you do as far as how your business model is concerned. What was that moment that was like, all right, I'm going to take it to the next level and really take off with this?
Yeah, I mean, it happened actually, a lot out of COVID. I feel like I went more virtual and decided I need to have more products online, and with the certifications and things like that. So I started to realize that I wanted to do it because it was something that I was passionate in, and helping people, and when you start getting results for people and realizing that to do it on a mass scale, you need to sort of go full bore. Then I just decided to do that, and it's evolved, it's changed a little bit. And I think when you in business for yourself, like, you might start out with some products, and then you just evolve and you get into different avenues. And so it definitely takes time to sort of find what your niche is and what works for you. So.
But can you dive into that a little bit more? Because obviously, right now, you really deal with people similar to yourself, correct? Like you're men who of a certain age who are trying to have these kinds of results. I don't want to say later on in life because I think I'm older than you, and I don't want to make it seem like we're dinosaurs and what have you. But it's kind of like, since you were able to do it, was that how you developed your specific market in the beginning, or as it evolved?
Yeah, it definitely, like you said, it's something that did sort of evolve over time. I think it's important to, whatever the market is someone that, that market that they can relate with you and you can relate with them. And I think that goes a long way. I'm not one that has like this big story where I lost 50, 60 pounds. And, I know there's a lot, a lot of, not a lot, but, a lot of people do have these positive stories where they can, sort of draw people's interest in, is, but for me, it was more like, I just, I just felt like a continuing issue that kept coming up was these, 40 plus year old males that perhaps were looking to get their health back in order. Because, I think what happens with a lot of individuals is they just put their health on the back burner, and then realize 20 years later, after they have 3 kids and they're working full time, that their health, it needs to be put at the forefront before anything else. And so this was just a recurring theme, and that was like the niche that I felt like I could sort of relate with the most.
Well, I'm glad that you said that you didn't have like a tremendous underlying story. I mean, one of the things that we kind of don't give ourselves credit about is the fact that, you, like I said, we might be of a certain age, and just even to be maintaining a healthy lifestyle is an accomplishment of itself. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times that health coaches feel that they don't have this dramatic story to share that's going to resonate with people. And like you said, that's just not the case, correct?
Yeah, no, and it doesn't, having, stories do sell, right? So like, I think if you're, obviously this is, many health coaches listening to this, is it is good to accumulate these stories, and it doesn't have to be necessarily you. This is obviously can be clients, and so creating and like keeping tabs on all the people that you've helped throughout the years, I think is an important thing to do. Sometimes it can get lost, but these, I think a lot of successful coaches are successful because they really make light of all these accomplishments that they've helped people with. And I think because other people see that and they want that same thing. And so I think that's like a really important step to starting your own business is first start building these stories around your business. And I think you'll attract a lot of people.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes a lot of sense. So one of the things that I'm curious about, and I know that I ask this question often of many of my guests, what would you have done maybe differently as a first step that you may or may not have done this? And because I know that there's just a lot of options. It's, you get a certification and there's just a million directions that you can go in. Do you have a ideal first step that you may or may not have utilized when you were starting off in business?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so one of the things I've created over the last year was a high ticket item. I think that early on, I had a lot of low ticket items, and, it was good in the sense that creating products and creating content, people like that. But from a business perspective, it's very tough to, be in the green and make money on a bunch of low ticket items, because you just have to create so much volume from that. And so I think it can take a lot of strain off a business if you do have a high ticket item. And even if you sell a few a year, it can help you at least get in the green and maybe use some of that money to spend on ads or things like that. So that was something that I probably wish I did earlier, but it all came in time, and I gained a lot of experience through the other things that I did. But that was something that was a good revelation in my business.
So I'm assuming the reason you didn't have a high ticket product was that you thought maybe it wouldn't sell, because I think that's a common thing I hear amongst health coaches currently.
Yeah, I think it can be sort of an intimidating thing to offer something for $6, $7, $8,000. Like, these questions are, am I worth that? Right? Like, can I bring that value? And I think you have to wrap your arms around telling yourself that, you do have that value, you can change someone's life, and people will pay for that, and it could be worth their time. I think, yeah, so it can be intimidating, and I think it takes time. I would recommend people, there are some great coaches out there who help individuals, like, health coaches, create a high ticket item. And I had some help with that. So his name's Sonny Durant. I don't think he actually still does that, but that he did that for a while, and he helped me create a system. And we create this whole like 6-month program. We called it, we came up with a name, we came up with all the principles behind it, what problems it's going to solve, and what tools am I going to use. So I think that from going through those steps, that helped me gain confidence in order to sell the high ticket item, knowing that I had a system that I could follow.
Yeah, no, I think definitely when you have that support and the backing of a coach, that definitely helps you have the motivation and confidence to do something like that. I know, I guess my next follow-up question was, was there any limiting beliefs on yourself outside of that made you a little bit hesitant initially to do that?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think we all have limiting beliefs, and that was part of the reason why I hired someone to help me create that high ticket item, is to overcome those, because there was definitely a lot of that in the beginning. And I think once we built a framework, not only around having a system in place to work with the client, but also like sort of a system for sales, right? Like okay, you got this 15-minute clarity call, which is, literally 10-15 minutes, just sort of filtering out and seeing if that client perhaps is the right person. And then from there, you get them into, like, let's say, like an hour call where you can dive deeper and learn more about them. And it is those calls that take time, and the more you do them, the better you get at them. And it's nice to have a little bit of a script as well. And I had all that. But there is an art to it, and it's not about being perfect. And obviously you can't probably say the right thing to the wrong person, and a lot of times you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. So if it's the right person, you'll know, and it's just a matter of going through the numbers and finding those right people.
You have any hesitations of making those calls specifically? Because I know a lot of health coaches can't stand those calls.
Yeah, right.
Do you have to overcome it as far as that goes?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's one of those things where, like, we used to, come up with just a daily, let's just say a daily number of how many to do a day. And it could be as minimal as like 2 to 3 a day. Right. And it could be just a sort of an outreach. But I think one of the things that can be helpful is, if you feel like I think starting with warm market is the way to go. And, if you feel like you don't want to like feel salesy, I think the best way to go about that is, because that's, I think people are like, oh, I think I'm selling, but I think you have to it's all about perspective. Okay, I'm doing this to help an individual, right?
Right.
So like you have to sort of change your mindset. No, yes, you are selling something, but you know what? This person, you could change this person's life, right? Like you have to sort of change your perspective. And if it's not for them, that's fine. But at least as long as you're giving them this offer. But I think also too is you can take the pressure off and go like an indirect route. It would be like, hey, John, I just started this 6-month fat burner blueprint program, help people gain energy and build muscle and lose body fat. This may or may not be for you, but I was wondering if perhaps maybe you even knew someone that this could be helpful for. And so it's sort of an indirect way of asking them, because it takes the pressure off them, and they'll raise their hand if it's for them. And if it's not for them, they might, my cousin, blah, 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 she might have an interest in it. Or so that's another way of sort of taking the fear out of that sort of outreach.
I like that, actually. It makes a lot of sense. It's very slick. So how do you categorize your business model right now? So what is really like the way that you are creating revenue? I know that you have a couple courses, but if you could I obviously did a lot more research on it, but could you share that with the audience just so they can get an idea what the possibilities they may have in a successful business like yours?
Yeah, I mean, right now, a lot of my focus has been on the high ticket item. I do have like a store with other, lower end products that people can buy, like like there's that intermittent fasting course, or there's like a 1 hour coaching call and things like that. And I created some like ebooks and things like that. But I think I would say right now my business is focused more about helping individuals through a 6-month program, that high ticket item. And I am coming out with like an ebook, where people can learn more about myself, learn about ways that they can help themselves. And I'm using that ebook as more of like a filtration system for people that'll raise their hand and that are looking for other things, as far as like other products or even that high ticket item. So I would say that's been the main focus of it right now.
Okay. Because also one of the things that I've found interesting about yourself is that you're a podcaster as well. You're also an author. And one of the things that I like to highlight is how we can use those mechanisms to generate potential clients and potential opportunities for sales and such. Can you talk about both of those and how you kind of make that work in your business as well?
Yeah, like did you say, I'm sorry, I lost you for that. Did you say the challenge and the certification and all that stuff?
Well, I actually missed those because those are part of your arsenal
Okay.
as well. So
Okay.
yeah, I'd love to touch on all of them because again, like one of the things I really admire about the way that you go about it is that there are different things that I actually highlight on the show. Sometimes just specifically with one point for like a guest, but since you have many entry points into your business, yeah, if you could talk about some of those things and how they kind of, I guess, circular way of creating revenue for you in various capacities.
Yeah. So like, for example, like the challenge, I think I think it's important to have different items at different price points that sort of reaches different individuals and what they're looking for. Right. So like the 21-day challenge is not an expensive thing for an individual to do. It could be anywhere from, I've changed the price throughout the years, but it can be anywhere from $7. We added it as $1 to $21, and so this is just a way for people to get into your life, into your, I should say, bubble, right? Like, so I think it's important to building an email list is really important. Whether you have a podcast or just a standalone business as a health coach, because then once you in having different ways to get people into your sort of your stratosphere, if you want to say, then from there, it might take, someone that does the challenge, they might actually be a candidate to be for a high ticket item for you, but that might take 6 years.
Right.
So I think it's important. They did the challenge. What's next, right? I think it's important that to have like, okay, after they're done with the challenge, then what are we going to take them to? Well, we'll take them to just an email list like a weekly newsletter that they get every week or every couple weeks, just to keep them sort of abreast of what you're doing. And so I guess, I guess to answer your question, I think it's good to have different price points and to also all those price points, these are ways just to capture individuals into your sort of stratosphere. And then from there, you can upsell them down the road, perhaps on other items that you come out with or that fit into your business.
Yeah, no, that's great. So, what have you found to be the most successful so far, as far as these things that are capturing potential clients?
Yeah, I mean the challenge, I don't focus as much on that, and I actually have a new one that I created. But the 21-day fasting challenge was great in the sense that it's just a way to people just to like ease them into the process and get them, at least taking some action. The certificate, like, I have that intermittent fasting coach certification. That was really cool. Like I created a relationship with a few other individuals who are in the health space and create some partnerships where, like let's say someone got into keto or whatever, they wanted to maybe add on to that. This was sort of a good adjunct. So I think it really just comes down to what you put your focus on. I think it's also important not to try to have 8 million different products, right?
Right.
Have a couple things that it's same thing with social media. Like pick one, maybe two, platforms that you want to reach out to and stay consistent on. And I think it's the same thing with business. You sort of want to pick one or two products that you want to focus on. And like for me right now, obviously it's more of that high end ticket, but for other individuals, it could be something else. So I think that's important too.
Gotcha. So you got a lot of things going on, even though you say you're kind of limiting it to specific things. I mean, you definitely have a lot of products. You do, obviously you're on podcasts. You do have a podcast. What kind of support are you getting? Are you have a team at this point? You're doing this a lot by yourself, or how's that looking?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to find people to do the things that you really don't want to do, and that you can focus your time around, marketing yourself. So, I mean, I do have people that help with the, obviously with website and editing podcasts and like yourself. And then, I will say I use Fiverr quite a bit when it comes to just little things like just here's an ebook. Can you put pictures and make it look professional and, things that I don't want to spend, I could probably figure it out. And, even with like Kajabi, having people help me with that. So I think with Fiverr and Upwork and, and platforms like this, finding individuals to do these little jobs that come up, I think is so important.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned Kajabi as a platform. What other things like Kajabi do you incorporate that may be helpful for a health coach who's looking to do some of these creative things?
Yeah, I mean, I've used ClickFunnels, right? So I'll use ClickFunnels for my challenge, and I think that Kajabi is great for courses and products. I would say that's probably their specialty. They have gotten into other avenues. I think they've even gotten into podcasting. I think so it probably depends on what they're looking to do, but like for obviously building some type of funnel where they have maybe a low ticket item and then it sort of takes them to other things. Creating some type of funnel through ClickFunnels has been really helpful. I've used that a few times. What else have I used? I mean, those are the two main ones that I've been using for products and for funnels and things like that.
Anything you're hearing out there right now that's piquing your interest that you might want to dive into that you haven't tried yet?
You mean like in the health world, or just like just for business?
I think for more business, but obviously, if you had something, I heard the chuckle, so maybe you heard that sounded like something that you might have health wise been on your mind. But yeah, anything, either one.
Yeah, right now the focus is around building this sort of offer sequence for my book.
Okay.
And so that'll be like my book will be the main offer, and then we'll have bonuses and order bumps and upsells. So that's going to be the focus. The book's not written yet; it's almost done, but I'm getting obviously some help with that because someone I collaborate with, ghostwriter that's helping me build that. And so that's been the main focus. But I do think that the idea of a funnel for people starting out is a good place to start, because it does give you, it gives the individual the option of, okay, well, I'll spend $5 or I'll spend, $200 or $500. And so it gives them that option. It's like going to the grocery store and checking out, and you have all these options. It's the same type of thing. And I think that's a good thing for people starting out to start to build.
No, definitely. So you did mention that you are working with a ghostwriter. That's something that a lot of people don't admit, and I know that it's very common.
Very common,
if not the norm.
I was going to say, like, probably 80% of the books that you've read have begotten, there's a ghostwriter behind it, and that's not to say, like, for example, like we with the ghostwriter, we talk every week.
Yeah.
So it's she's just taking my ideas and making them look nice.
Right.
Like making them digestible for the individual and taking a lot off my plate. So I think, most of those books on the shelves that you're reading, someone's had it taken, and done that.
Well, yeah, no, I'm very glad that you have shed that light on it, because a lot of people act like that's not what's going on, and like you said, the majority of the books are like that. And hey, listen, it's almost at this point the way that it operates is like they just edit it in essence, like they package it nice for you to make it look presentable. We're all not writers, and we do have great ideas, but sometimes putting it in a, like you said, digestible format, that's really what they do.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's like the extent of all the stuff that I wanted to touch with you on business. Unless you have anything else that you wanted to share that you think might be helpful for a health coach who's just getting started in their space, maybe some parting advice in regards to that. And then I had like a selfish question about intermittent fasting that I wanted to throw at you before you leave.
Yeah, I think, a coach starting out, I think one thing I would say is don't get caught up in getting a certification for every little thing. Like focus on a couple things, get a couple certifications, because it's important just to have that background. But then from there, I think it's all about just working with clients and learning from them, because that's where the biggest education is going to come from. And I think sometimes people get so caught up in, all these certifications, because there's a ton of them out there. And then also, excuse me, like, how's my website look? Do I need this? I was going to say business card, but no one uses business cards anymore. Just getting, I guess what I'm saying is don't get too caught up in all the little details. I think the most and best way to do it is just to go out and reach out to clients and build it that way. And that's the best learning experience someone can get.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Yeah, it's just like everything nowadays. There's just so much information overwhelm that's going on, and there's just so many different angles to take your business and different directions and different platforms and social media.
Oh my God.
Avenues. It does get crazy, but like you had mentioned earlier, just try to stick to one thing and get good at it and kind of let everything else develop from there. So that was good advice earlier.
Yeah.
So my selfish fasting question is it's just something that I was curious because fasting is such a super hot topic now. I've been doing it for probably 15 years myself in some shape or form. What's the longest you've ever fasted?
Not that, I don't do a ton of extended ones. Maybe a couple days, 2.5 days.
Yeah. I hit 3.
Nice.
And but that was with coffee and water, black coffee in the water.
Sure.
But I've been hearing some freakishly long ones lately, and I figured that if I have the expert on, I might as well see how crazy you dove.
You know what? Here's the thing: extended fasts. I mean, if I would say for most people, they probably, depending on where they're at, they probably don't need to do that.
Right.
I think you can get those benefits from not going on extended fasts. Because I got to remember that's a very catabolic state, and especially middle-aged males and onward, like you want to preserve muscle, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're fasting for a bunch of days, that's you can lose muscle pretty quick. I'm not saying that's good for a lot of other things, maybe gut health and things like that, but yeah, you just got to be careful and not overdo it.
Yeah. There's so many different crazy schools of thoughts that pop up, and I, for the most part, like religiously do the 16-8. Sure. That's kind of the easy. I skip breakfast. I kind of had the cheat code in life with that. I was never hungry at that time anyway. So when it came about and it was a thing, I was like, oh, this is easy. I'm not hungry at that time anyway. But I know so a lot of people struggle generally with the breakfast thing. They've been doing it their entire life, and to be honest, for me, it was like literally force feeding myself during those early years. So
right.
Thank you for that little bit of advice. I figure I get a selfish question in there.
Yeah, no problem.
But Brian, you've been fantastic. Can you just give us, your website, social media handles, and just everything we need to keep up with what you're doing, not only in the intermittent fasting world, but obviously in the way that you present your business and stuff. I know that you could be a model for a lot of us health coaches starting out to replicate. So if you could give us that information, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, my website's just my name, Brian Gryn, and that's GRYN.com. And if there's obviously health coaches that are listening and they want to reach out and they have questions, Brian at briangryn.com, they can reach out. And my socials are all on the website. I mean, I'm at BD Gryn is my Instagram, and then I'm on LinkedIn and things like that, Facebook. So definitely reach out if you got any questions. But I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, no, pleasure to have you. So, Brian, have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Omar.
Hope you enjoyed listening to today's episode of the Health Coach Academy podcast. If you did, jump over to iTunes and leave a rating and or review. It goes a long way in helping get this message out to our fellow health coaches and people in our industry. Also, if you can, jump over to my website, omarcumberbatch.com, where I give out a lot of freebies, including my 5-day sugar challenge for people who are having issues with sugar. And also for health coaches, I have the book, Hidden. It's the 6 not so obvious ways to get your clients unstuck. Have a great day.